toxic perfectionism appears to increase in families that are either highly rigid or highly chaotic.
Can I get any credit for Cult for saying it first?
When people talk about the horrible experiences that they had being raised in the church, almost every single time, if you get really specific with the person and they get detailed about what it was that was difficult for them, it was their family.
It was daddy issues.
And this is one of the big things that evangelicals have. They have this whole the impossible gospel of Mormonism. Have you ever seen this?
All the antis are pale. Trying to pin it on Spencer W. Kimball seems weird when there's no sun.
If I don't say it, there will be raging antis in the comments.
Can we just take a little dose of humble pie here? Not everybody's going to be a rock star. Ready is a lie.
Like, you see the reports. Women in the 1920s weren't happy.
What I think this data shows is that perfectionism is a fairly common experience.
I think it's more of a commentary on their mental state than it is on what the church does.
All of the scriptural references used in this episode will be brought to you by scripturenotes.com. For a free trial to Scripture Notes, please visit the link in the description. Apparently, being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is really good, if not the best, for your mental health in a world where everybody says that religion is harmful. They're not following the science, it looks like, because a new study, correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, a new study has come out and said you're better off mentally as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, especially when it comes to perfectionism. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, specifically perfectionism. So I came across this article and I found this graph. So the article starts off with a story from BYU where it was saying a therapist was facilitating a helpful discussion about mental health. When toxic perfectionism came up, the facilitator mentioned in an offhand way that we have a particular problem with this at Brigham Young University because of, quote unquote, the gospel. And I don't know about you guys, but I have kind of seen this thrown around a little bit of, oh, the gospel's great. It's awesome. It helps you in your life a lot, but it can kind of tend to make people a little too perfectionist, like we're trying to get there. And this is one of the big things that evangelicals have. They have this whole the impossible gospel of Mormonism. Have you ever seen this before?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I heard Lynn Wilder say, it's an impossible gospel. But I thought that was just her saying that, like, the doctrine doesn't add up.
Did you just do an RFK Jr. as Lynn Wilder?
Oh, savage, man.
That was RFK.
You know, see, I was thinking maybe my impression was not only bad, but inappropriate. And then we just jumped the shark making an RFK one. You know, welcome to the WardRadio wigwam.
You get a dead bear cub underneath your desk.
Yeah, there's this guy, Keith something, and this is like years back. You could find these old early 2000s early YouTube videos, and he would actually go around and give seminars to like people who are going to go out and witness to Mormons at the pageants or at Salt Lake Temple Square or whatever. And he would take them through this whole, it almost felt like the conspiracy chart from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, dude.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, so first we go to 1 Nephi 23, and it says, after all you can do. But then we go over to in Moroni, and it says we're saved by faith through Christ after fully submitting ourselves. But then we go over to Doctrine and Covenants, and then here's a manual from 1970 from a quote that Spencer W. Kimball gave one time at BYU, and he like threads it all together, and it basically is like, in our doctrine, we teach that we have to be perfect before Christ's atonement. I don't know what the atonement would do at that point, but before the atonement does something, we basically have to be perfect, but we also can't be perfect is what our doctrine teaches us. And so it just drives the Latter-day Saints crazy, and they know they can't do it, and that's why we need to give them real Christianity, because Jesus just covers it all. You just got to say the prayer.
As they try and explain the hypostatic union.
Yeah, as long as it's the right Jesus, and it's the 3-in-1, 1-in-3-1, and not the other more normal sounding one that we have.
Yes. Well, look,
so it's like this whole thing that's been going around of like, oh, Mormons think they need to be perfect. They're trying to be perfect. It weighs on their psychology so much. It's everywhere. Yeah,
look, the Utah mental health issue is extremely easy to figure out. It's cold and gray, and there's no sunlight for 6 months.
At least that's your prescription.
No, I mean, like,
he is 100% right.
people are like,
There's a
BYU's
reason-
depression rate is so high. I wonder what it could be. I don't know. Is it the ice falling from the sky and the no sun for 6 months? That seems like the obvious answer. Trying to pin it on Spencer W. Kimball seems weird when there's no sun. Like, every time you walk, when you're at Helaman Halls and you're a freshman and you're from out of state, you're having a great time. And then November hits and you're like, this is awful.
Yeah.
And you look up, there's no sun. It's cold. It's sad.
And even the mountains turn like just pure gray.
Uh-huh.
They just go monochrome.
Yeah.
I
People
feel
in
like,
Utah,
why is
like,
that?
joke-
Like, I get when Imagine Dragons did the Love Loud thing, and they were like, it's the depression rate in Utah is so high, and it's like, okay, I know you have all the data from the culture, this and the studies here and here, but the low-hanging fruit, and not even low-hanging fruit, like a low-hanging fruit market, like the majority of the fruit, there's no sun for 6 months. The depression rate is not the same level in St. George. You want to know why? Because they always have sun.
Vitamin D is a reality of your mental health. Yes.
I don't know, like, how come, are there any articles on that? And people go, it's the elevation. No. There's no sun. Like, I don't know if I can express
I'll back you up,
how
Quaku.
depressing Payson is. Imagine living in Nephi, Utah from November to April. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Okay, Luke, back up his comedy with some truth claims.
No. There was a 1984 study by Roger Ulrich that found that patients recovering from gallbladder surgery who had bedside windows overlooking natural scenes, trees, rocks, fountains, all this stuff, had shorter hospital stays. They took less medication, and they received fewer negative evaluations from nurses compared to patients with views of only a brick wall out their window.
You think they run these studies
So
at
it's
BYU
totally a
Hawaii?
thing.
They don't. You know why? Because you look out and you see the ocean and coconuts and beautiful Islander women walking around. No, yeah. And guess what? Well, BYU Idaho has a high depression rate. It's Rexburg. Before there was a school there was a high depression rate. Have you been to Idaho Falls?
Well, also, they do the studies for, like, the guys that work in oil rigs in Alaska, like, above the Arctic Circle when, like, the sun doesn't set for, like, 3 months. And then also, like, it doesn't have...
Oh, it must be
light.
the Alaskan Orthodox Church. No, it's that they're drunks and they're sad and it's 30 days a night. Yeah. No, I mean, if I had a house in Idaho Falls and a house in hell, I'd rent out the one in Idaho Falls and live in hell. That's how depressing it is over there. This is a no-brainer. And yes, okay, does it disproportionately I don't even know if I can make this joke. It's not, the punchline isn't funny enough for what the possible controversy may be.
Okay.
I'm going to throw it out there anyway.
I'll edit it out if I have
Yes,
to.
the LGBT population may suffer the most with depression in Utah. Their sign is a rainbow. There's no rainbows for 6 years. I mean, 6 months. There's no. Was the punchline good enough for that? I don't know if
that
it's
might
worth
explain why there's so many in West Hollywood with the June gloom moisture condition coming down over the river basin of Los Angeles and the bright sun during the summer. They might find a higher correlation with rainbows meteorologically.
Look,
there's a possibility.
I was a theater kid. Okay, I was a theater kid. Half my friends growing up in high school, they were LGBT. They like the sunlight. They like the sun. It's like, look, black people like the sun. Why are we not in Antarctic, in Alaska? We like the sun. It's sad without sun. Can that be the end of this debate?
That's true.
They
That's
actually
true.
have like a sunroom in like the psychology thing in the Wilkinson Student Center where they like can schedule you for a session to just sit in a room that has really bright light for like 45 minutes.
So-
Speaking of Deseret News, I think
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Let's get back to Deseret News. Okay, keep going.
All right. So there was a study. It was called Family Foundations of Youth Development that studied the mental health of Latter-day Saint youth. That they've been following over 2,000 youth for the past 6 years, half Latter-day Saint-ish and about half not. So they decided to question this assumption of Latter-day Saints have toxic perfectionism, that the gospel makes us struggle with this somehow because we're supposed to be perfect in the gospel. And so the summary of all these numbers is that chart that I put in the Discord.
Okay.
And as they said, as they point out in the Deseret News,
Got it.
is that Latter-day Saints basically do the best. If you look at the chart at the black rectangles on the left side, the highest proportion of people that have low toxic perfectionism, 29% have low toxic perfectionism, Latter-day Saints. But what was really interesting to me is what is the category
The
that
highest.
has the worst?
Yeah, it looks like the people that actually are showing the worst toxic perfectionism are the former members of religion. Like, is this like literally just an
Specifically
indictment?
Former Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
Specifically, former Latter-day Saints have worse mental health and toxic perfectionism than current active Latter-day Saints. That's literally the takeaway here.
Yeah, so 29% of Latter-day Saints have low toxic perfectionism. Only 12%, so the number is cut in half or more. Only 12% of former Latter-day Saints have low toxic perfectionism. Then if you go to the other side of the scale, only 12% of Latter-day Saints, current Latter-day Saints, 12% have high toxic perfectionism compared to 27% who have high toxic perfectionism in former Latter-day Saints. So it's literally almost exactly flipped.
Wow.
Between the two groups.
Smoke. This is incredible. Like, whenever people say, oh, well, there's no archaeological evidence of the Book of Mormon. It's like, you're right. There's not just archaeological evidence of the Book of Mormon. There's meteorological, there's geological, there's linguistic. And then now they're saying, oh, religion is harmful for, dude, name your group. Women self-report as happier. LGBTQ success is higher in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now we're looking at data for people that struggle with toxic self-evaluation, perfectionism. Some would call it scrupulosity. And here's the data. Like, data over dogma, baby. Let's do this. There's the data. You're better off if you're an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints than if you're a toxic anti-Mormon.
Can I make a
ex-Mormon.
very shallow comment? Intensely shallow.
Okay, cool.
All the antis are pale. Wait, all the anti-Mormons are very pale. Do you think if they got
we
a
gotta
little...
check it now. Who are the top 5 anti-Mormons?
I mean,
Look.
I highly doubt John DeLin's going to the tanning room at Vasa.
I'm just
right?
saying, if we took uncertainly Carly, that is a beautiful woman. Put her by the beach for a month. Let her tan every day at the beach. Happiest woman in California.
Oh, you
firmly
think that would stem the tide?
If we could take all the top antis, Bill Reel, the other top YouTuber, all of them.
Alyssa Grenfell?
Yeah.
Okay, your girls camp podcast girl?
I don't know if she's pale. She's olivey. I think she's kind of like Italian or something.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but like the pale ones, okay?
What did
Take
the
'em all.
comedians say? You're smooth papaya.
Smooth papaya. Here, take them all. Newport Beach in June. 2 weeks. End of anti-Mormonism.
Oh, really?
Because look, you're on the beach. You know what I mean? You got a pineapple drink. You're like, I don't really want to be mad at Brigham Young today. I want to catch some water.
Are you like who was the conservative comedian that was on Saturday Night Live? Dennis Miller, I believe it was.
Dennis Miller.
Yeah, he said one of the biggest problems with the jihadis is that they just had in a while, and so that's what you're suggesting is
I said
something along those
sunlight
lines.
and beach. Utah's plenty. Hey, by the way, when I went on Jubilee, I got made fun of for saying it, and when I went on Cara Burrell's podcast, I got made fun of for saying that Utah was not this completely like a state with no liberation.
Yeah, but
they all
Utah's
made
not
fun of me.
Mormonism.
And then only 4 months after I said that and got ridiculed, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives come out, and then all the Utah women are like, yeah, I'm a swinger, and they're like, wow, Utah's so sexually crazy. Can I get any credit for saying it first? Like, I know Taylor Frankie Paul is hotter than me, but like, come on, I said it first.
I can't give you credit for saying a reality TV show depicts reality. Like, everybody knows that is emphatically not the case.
Which is also a great topic for another episode.
That show's pretty. Have you been to Draper? That show's accurate. I know.
I lived in Utah
is
for 6
not
years.
is not accurate as far as Utah of a whole. It's like Draper, like a part of Bountiful.
Hey, the Kardashians.
Do you know what those
Alpine, Lehigh,
those rich the foothills of Provo, those rich neighborhoods?
Yeah.
Do you know the parties going on in the Edgemont district? Do you know those parties going on?
No,
They are swinging. They are swinging in Edgemont. They're swinging in South Jordan. They're swinging in Park City. They're swinging in Park City. Believe me, I know. I've been invited to one. Those people, it's real, guys. They are doing, and you walk in. There's like a blow up Winnie the Pooh and lube. It's weird stuff, guys.
Is it P. Diddy we're talking about here?
It's P. Diddy stands for Provo Diddy. That's what they're doing.
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh. All right. So back to the cold hard facts here put forth by the Deseret News. Ethan, Luke, clean up this mess, my friends. Clean up this mess.
I will say, if I don't say it, there will be raging antis in the comments. The study did show, if we go down to 0.5 in the article, it talks about how about roughly 1/5 of the people that they tracked who struggled with perfectionism over, I believe it says a 4-year time period, left the church. And so if you do need to take into account that it does seem that people who struggle with perfectionism are more likely to leave what they self-perceive as highly rigid faiths and attempt to opt for a more liberating life experience instead. And so that does need to be factored in here, in that there's that could be one of the reasons why former Latter-day Saints, for example, have the largest perfectionism group, because they're just taking from the Latter-day Saint category, essentially.
It also couldn't be just because they've adopted a woke ideology that religion is harmful and you have to remember all of this trauma that you couldn't remember 6 months before they seeded this in your mind, that you're the most downtrodden and oppressed person on earth because you were given a wholesome upbringing in Taylorsville with a scoutmaster that cared about your spiritual and physical well-being, an entire young men's program that helped raise you, people financially sacrificed to pay your tuition at BYU, and then all of a sudden you just remembered the beatings that never happened, but now you talk about endlessly on the Anti-Mormon subreddit. It couldn't be that. That's not part of... That
could possibly be a small reason for it. Yeah. I will say, though, one of the things that the article talks about is that it references some work that's been done around how the family environment seems to impact whether or not someone is going to grow up dealing with perfectionism. It's 0.2 in the article if you want to try to find it.
Gotcha.
But essentially what they found... which, I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? And this is one of those things that I know I've personally noticed a lot when people talk about the horrible experiences that they had being raised in the church. Almost every single time, if you get really specific with the person and they get detailed about what it was that was difficult for them, it was their family.
It was daddy issues. Yeah,
it was daddy issues. It was mommy issues. It was growing up with mom or dad being incredibly hyper orthodox or very rigid on like, okay, I'm proud of you if you check all the boxes and do everything perfectly. So in other words, it's like,
which we condemn, which is Sadduceeism.
Well, the interesting thing is it says toxic perfectionism appears to increase in families that are either highly rigid, little room for individual differences, or highly chaotic, very few expectations. So if the family goes either way, if it's no, we do this and we do this and bedtime's always this and that, then they suffer from that. But also if it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, you'll figure it out, then that also freaks people out, which makes sense. Like if everything you do is being scrutinized and monitored, that's going to be very freaky, especially if you're a child, and that can cause problems. Likewise, if you're just given no structure whatsoever and it's kind of like figure it out, it's like, the world's kind of a crazy place, and I don't have, as a child, the mental capacity to organize it myself, and you're not helping me, mom and dad. And so then that can kind of make them freak out a little bit and become a toxic perfectionist.
I can speak to that because I had loving parents growing up, but it was definitely a very low to no rule environment. I remember when I was an older teenager realizing that most of my friends had curfews, and I kind of like raised my eyebrows at that. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, and just this realization that most people had rules that they had to abide by in their house, and that just wasn't really a thing. And I kind of responded by being trying to overachieve, trying to overcorrect. And so that's definitely
Ethan,
definitely a
for
real
me it was
thing.
the same way. I had no curfew growing up. Never had a curfew. Now, I was a skinny theater kid with too much feminine energy, so I don't think my mom was worried about me getting a girl pregnant or anything. She was like, yeah, he's fine. But
what's too much feminine energy?
I mean, I was a theater kid. I was literally singing Mary Poppins as I walked down the hall. You think that guy's going to cause trouble? But
no, my mom wasn't worried.
I will say this.
Interning for the Utah Eagle Forum when I was 16. She was like, I trust him. He can do whatever he wants.
But this is, and I said this before, people got mad at me. This is the double-edged sword, because when you do have religion does create a certain personality type that feels like they need to be perfect. It just does. That's how cultures work. And
I think so.
Oh yeah, duh.
I think it chills people out because it gives them a...
No, in America, no. You ever seen, what's the Oh Captain, My Captain movie?
Well, maybe amongst Protestants, because...
Among Mormons, we're Protestants. Look, you got to remember...
We're not Protestants 2.0. We're the rebellion against.
We have those tendencies, because remember, we left the wasps.
Utahns do.
Utah is still a northeastern
has
transplant,
a point,
as much
but
as we hate to admit
I'll
it.
add something to it later.
So, though, what you do have, and this is one of the faults. What you have, especially among women in the church, is there is this kind of expectation for women as to not as much now, but for a long time, find that worthy priesthood holding man, get married, have kids, right? That was a thing, that big part of our church for a long time. So that's good. That's good because it fulfills that divine feminine role of creating a human life. The closest thing to God on earth is being able to create a life. But the negative side of that is sometimes it stops you from fully developing your personality and your goals. That's why you have a lot of that.
I don't think it was a Mormon thing as much as an American thing. Like you saw the movie The
Mormonism
Help,
is the American religion. So by virtue of that, it's our culture.
But that would be a betrayal of its own doctrine, not a fulfillment of.
It doesn't matter though. It's there, right? So because it's there, what happens is you have a lot of these people who have kind of unfulfilled personalities in a way, like they're not fully. They don't really know who they are, and with that, you double down, and you make your kids so rigid and a certain structure because you don't know who you are yet. That's why in Utah you have it all the time, like these 35-year-old women who go insane, like they go crazy.
Yeah,
and
but
start
also isn't some of that just being like? I see this. Okay, I'm going to get to you for a second, Luke. But also, can we just take a little dose of humble pie here? Not everybody's going to be a rock star. Just like Daniel Tosh says, okay? Not everybody is the Disney princess they thought they were going to be growing up.
I know.
And I'm sorry, just because you did one episode once of High School Theater doesn't mean that the Mormon church robbed you of your Broadway career because you were lucky enough to find a man that loved you, wanted to put a ring on your finger, and decided to, actually make you his wife and start a family. That doesn't mean you were robbed of a Tony.
No,
it means you were lucky.
But it can mean you didn't figure out who you were.
Why can't you do that with a child? Like Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. What lifestyle is? What'd you say?
Oh, don't call Jordan
media.
Peterson, the dude wearing a friggin' Two-Faces suit from The Dark Knight.
That was kind of cool. Hey, he says he has a lot of feminine energy too. I thought you'd love the guy.
Well, what do you mean by feminine? Like, is this really the? Well, it's like, gosh, it's like, talking to him is like, splitting hair.
And what do you mean by energy? Who is feminine? Where's the energy coming from?
Yeah, it's literally like it's that. Yeah. So anyway, point is, you do have an epidemic of bored people in Utah. I don't know who they are, and you can say, look, unfortunately, American church culture created that, and that does create this. You get these weird my kid has to be perfect stuff. And then you also get these girls like, I can't wait to be married. My thing is I want to be a wife and a mother. Great. 6 years into that, I don't know who I am and I'm miserable. So people do need to discover who they are
It
first.
happens, what you're saying, Kwaku. I do agree with you somewhat. I've had family members go through this. I feel it was a lot more self-congratulatory than it was they were robbed. But I noticed that it's when their youngest child is able to start taking care of themselves at about 13 and 14 years old, when they can walk themselves to school and get home themselves from school, and people's minds can start wandering and say, but I thought I was going to be touring with Whitesnake by now. I thought I was going to be a backup dancer for Jessica Simpson or, Justin Bieber, whoever's the relevant person, right? And so I can actually see some
And I want to
truth
clarify,
that.
I'm not saying that women are like lesser because they fall for this. I'm saying women end up being the bulk of that personality type because they're the ones doing the childbirth.
Now, there's one pushback I have to this being not a Mormon thing. You think there's pressure on women and raising their kids and social expectations in Utah, bro, which again is a Utah-ism, not a Mormon-ism. Wait till you move to the Upper East Side of New York City. Northeastern blue bloods vicariously live and perform through their children. And if you think there's societal pressure to perform, wait until you're a rich kid who's the son of a Merrill Lynch banker on the Upper East Side of New York City. Man, the daughters better be doing perfect ballet and the kids better be learning perfect piano. And they've got a 5 p.m. after school tutor, a 7 p.m. after school lacrosse coach. It's worse out east than in the west.
No, for sure. You'd much rather grow up in Cottonwood Heights than Connecticut.
Yeah,
no, for sure. Like, absolutely. No, those kids have no freedom. They look miserable. They make movies about it. That's how, like, depressed and sad they are up there.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Like if you're having, that's completely true. I'm just saying, I can see where the antis and the ex-Mormons would be like, actually, I don't know about what you're saying. I think the cultural element of not fully developing who you are first before you jump into something like that can create this. And then you end up doubling down because you don't want to admit, oh, I don't know who I am. So I'm going to double down. Oh, I am this, and you fall into label consciousness so much, and you force your kids into that, and then it's like when you do feel religion's forced on you, of course you're going to rebel.
Okay, my guess the only reason why I'm pushing back on this so much is just because I feel one of the greatest lies the devil tells us and society imposes upon us is this idea that you're not ready, and ready is a lie. I think sometimes in a lot of things, especially stepping up to the next level in life, launching or failure to launch, as they say, is oftentimes a function of just doing it, faking it till you make it. Sometimes you're not ready until you try. So you have to try to become ready. And if you never try until you think you're ready, you will never actually try and therefore never actually be ready. And that's why we have so many people who aren't having children. It's why
you gotta be careful. There's one guy who's thinking about killing his boss right now who's like, Cordon's right. You know what I mean? You gotta be careful who you say that to.
This is not an endorsement of widespread violence or factional warfare.
Hey, cut this.
Start the revolution.
You might have to cut this out, but that was a pep talk Luigi's brother gave him before he came over to help your CEO, dog. You got to be careful with that. Ethan's laughing and Luke is trying not to laugh. That's how you know it's a good joke when one of the two stalwarts breaks. That's how you know it's a good joke.
We couldn't sell. There he is. See, even Luke was chuckling. Hey, and by the way, getting a chuckle out of conservative Luke. That means it was.
It's actually not that
joke.
hard. You just have to know how to do it.
Okay, cool, awesome.
The death of billionaire CEOs. That's what we got. That's what gets a chuckle out of Luke. If it was George Soros, he'd be like,
oh, there we go. We found it out.
Yep, there we go.
All right. So, are we missing anything?
So, wait. I gotta push back a little bit on this. Okay. So this idea of like you need to find yourself and you need to fulfill yourself and society needs to help you do that, that's a newer thing. Like most of civilization didn't have this concept about the individual person. I'm actually working through a book right now, The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self by theologian Carl Trueman. And he goes through this whole thing. It's it really came to the fore during the sexual revolution. So I don't think we need to necessarily adopt that framework when we're talking about mental health in Latter-day Saints, because you're just assuming it's kind of like this cultural osmosis. You're just kind of assuming that the way we look at things right now is the right way to do it, when I think you could argue that it's actually not helpful for society.
Pushing back. I got 2 quick questions for you to answer, Luke. Just simple ones, okay? What time period before now would you rather live in?
That is a great question. And I would not want to live in any other time period before now because of the medical and economics situation that we're in right now.
When you look at a black and white picture, those people look miserable. Those people look miserable.
Intellectual situation we're in.
Second question. Finish this. You're the constitutionalist here. You're the America guy. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of what?
Yeah, the pursuit of happiness.
That's the era. We think about this. What other founders, and I know, look, I'm the guy who dunks in the founders. I'll give them this. What other country made happiness like a part of their...
That's true.
Like, you think Egyptians were like, are you feeling 100%? No, they weren't asking that. And then they quote Colin Quinn, the American frontiersmen were like, you know what? Now that you mentioned it, I haven't been 100%, so what are you going to do about it? We're the first people to even suggest that. But that is a godly principle. We should be able to pursue happiness. So, yeah,
yes. It's not the idea that people shouldn't be able to pursue happiness. That's the problem then. It's the concept of the self that's the problem.
Being dictated by
the way
happiness.
to pursue happiness is that now society needs to be shaped so that my internal state of myself, my internal psychological state, is always respected and never oppressed, and always been
I think that goes too far.
Able to give a free expression of itself.
No, I agree.
That's what we think pursuit of happiness is now. That's not what the founders were talking about back at the time.
Look, I'm not in the camp saying, like when like a 12-year-old, hardcore anime watcher decides to be a cat, and the teacher's got to put a litter box inside of the room to, I'm not into that camp. Okay, it's like that kid needs counseling. But women were, like, you see the reports, women in the 1920s weren't happy. They were depressed and sad and miserable, right? So clearly there's a balance. Like we do need a society.
Guys were also depressed and sad. I mean, it was the Great Depression. It was
even 1950s. The spousal abuse rate was super high. Like, people weren't happy, right? I would never want to live in a time besides now. That's why I always ask people, like people say "Make America Great" and not getting political, but even the phrase "Make America Great Again" to when? When would you rather live? You want to live in the 1880s? Every winter you lose a kid, you gotta fight people for food and poop in a bucket. Is that really where you want to? I don't want to live there. It sounds awful. I got to make Celts out of wolves. You want to live in ancient Samaria? I got to write scripture on a piece of yak. Like, I don't want that life. Right now is the best time ever. And part of that is because we get to pursue, like, Luke, you get to be a podcaster. You get to sit in a house with a mic and talk about 300 years ago, you're out chopping wood and shooting natives. That's what you're doing to live.
I'm not arguing. I answered
what a
your
life
question
that would be.
right off the bat.
Yeah. Sorry, Ethan, what'd you say?
Oh, I said what a life that would be.
Yeah, no,
he's
Ethan,
got a beard. He would survive.
Yeah, you look like you were made to turn butter and fight chiefs, dude. You.
See, the funny thing is, I'm a giant video game nerd. This is more of a recent transformation.
Oh, do you hate me for how much I've dogged on video games in this show?
No, I don't actually. I actually pretty much agree with you. Almost agree with you. I should say former giant video game nerd. Still appreciate them, but I'm definitely not sinking 500 hours into Skyrim like I used to.
All right. Hey, but now you're helping code the Book of Mormon video game, and it's going to be sick. So,
it is.
Yeah.
Can you do it like GTA, where you get to be Nephi and just like, instead of killing Laban once, you just get to take your sword and do whatever you want?
I actually hop in a chariot, run around Jerusalem,
I had the
throwing spears
idea
at people.
of having an option in the settings called agency mode, where you flip it. And then you can choose to attack or do whatever you want.
You could do like what if you did like Porter Rockwell GTA, where you get into a carriage, you got a bayonet and a Bowie knife, and they just put you.
Just patch Porter Rockwell into Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Just go.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Just go.
Up next, announcing Red Dead Redemption, The Fires of Missouri.
It's called Blood Atonement.
Oh
yes.
What did he say?
She said it's called Blood Atonement, the video game.
Ethan, let me tell you, just clipping that.
That's funny. Let him.
He's clipping that for sure.
Oh, let him.
Did we solve anything this episode, or did I disrupt it too much with the?
No. We solved the mental health issue with members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So do we have all the data in here? You're better off as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints than definitely being an ex-member of almost any faith when it comes to self-evaluated perfectionism. Is that pretty much the takeaway, Ethan, Luke?
I think when people make a criticism of, the church, they were trying to make you perfect all the time and it was so stressful and I had to leave and now I'm free. I think it's more of a commentary on their mental state than it is on what the church does. And that's what the data seem to suggest.
But that's a very American thing too. I mean, any school, I mean, growing up in Texas, the honor roll kids were like that. It's like that. That's like a weird. You got to be the best.
Tiger Mom was famously written in the 90s about Asian parents who would.
I thought it was like the 2000s.
Maybe it was the 2000s.
Yeah.
It's kind of. Yeah, that sucks.
Okay. So, anything else? Do we miss it all? Anything else?
I've got a quote for you, and it kind of goes off of something that Luke was saying earlier, and it's from this book called Man's Search for Meaning. Have either of you heard of
Viktor
that? Viktor
Frankl, yeah.
Yeah.
On the bookshelf back there.
Yeah. At one point he says, "Don't aim at success. The more that you aim at it and make it a target, the more you're going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue. And it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself." I definitely think that's true. And if anything, what I think this data shows is that perfectionism is a fairly common experience. It's a fairly common American experience, first world experience, whatever you want to call it. And the real question is, how are you going to deal with it? And I think what this data shows is that as you have meaning in your life that's outside of yourself, you're going to be able to find that. Not in trying to prove yourself better, greater, or that you're able to prove yourself perfect in comparison to others. That's all inward jockeying and mental health issues, and we want to set that aside. What purpose do you have in your life, and how are you attaining it? How are you becoming a part of something greater? And that seems to be what contributes to that pursuit of happiness.
Yeah, rock on. Hey, it's just like in the platform. The people that jumped off first were the ones at the very, very top of the platform. Not that I would ever suggest you watch very tasteful foreign Spanish rated R movies that are available on Netflix that teach heavy implications on moral lessons of life. That would be below me as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. With that said, go watch the platform. So, all right. Are we done here? We're done. This is awesome. Another episode under our belts. I think this was great, guys. This is just some really incredible stuff. Good on the people who did this survey. The survey that they referenced, we want to give a shout out to it. I want to make sure that I referenced it correctly. It was called the Family Foundations of Youth Development Study, done longitudinally between 2016 and 2022.
That doesn't sound like a somewhat biased group, does it?
The Family Foundations of Youth Development Study, not organization. That's just the name of the study.
Hey, so here's what we're saying on behalf of WardRadio. We're saying this. I'm speaking for everybody. No matter what faith you're in, stay. If you're a part of the Ayatollah Khamenei, we need you there. You know, if you're a part of the FLDS, the Black Hebrew Israelites, you are better to be there than somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm going off.
You know what? You drink that Kool-Aid when they give it to you. Don't you?
You drink that Kool-Aid when they give it to
No. I, for one, fully endorse joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Quick. Look, Luke is still gone. Luke is just gone.
Is it safe for me to come back yet? We're good?
We're good.
Okay,
That
I'm
was
back.
funny. That was funny, man. That's hilarious. All right. Yes. I think we're obviously insinuating of the mainstream Abrahamic faiths out there. You're obviously much better off than in.
Don't leave North Korea. Your supreme leader is absolutely right. He is guided by the spirits above.
Didn't he
He
actually
got
make
18
himself?
holes in one in a row.
Yeah, didn't he actually make himself a god? Isn't that something that he
How
did?
do you know
I
he's
don't
not?
remember. But anyway, let us know what you guys think.
You ever seen a
in
more
the-
put together country?
Oh,
Clean
just-
streets, great marching.
Clean streets and great marching. There are some side effects of totalitarianism. Yes.
Hey,
you are
by the
right.
way, can we, not like have our conference center look like the North Korean headquarters? Can we not do that, by the way? Have you seen the pictures?
No.
The side-by-sides? Oh my gosh.
Okay, well
I'll
now
have to put those in Discord. Let you
it's
guys
going to
see.
be a meme. It's going to be a meme. All right, guys. So let us know what you guys think. If you're watching online, please comment below. If you would like to continue with us, we've got some bonus materials for you at WardRadio.com. And as always, for this and more, please check us out at WardRadio.com. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. We assume if you made it this far that you liked our content, so please make sure you like this video and you share it with your friends. Now, in order to keep this content flowing freely, we need your help. If you're a person of means, please check us out on Venmo, the Cash App, or Zelle and consider a direct contribution to the channel. Or you could always go to WardRadio.com and sign up for our newsletter there. And while you're there, maybe consider purchasing some merch. We have some really cool hats, some really cool shirts, so you can strut your stuff and support the channel that way. Or if you're a kind of person that wants to just help out with some of the equipment in the studio, we have an Amazon wish list linked in the description as well. And don't forget scripturenotes.com. You have to read your scriptures daily, and scripturenotes.com is frankly the coolest way to study your scriptures, and they're a very generous sponsor of this channel. So please consider a free trial with scripturenotes.com. The link to Scripture Notes will also be in the description of this video. Either way, whether you're pressing this little button right here to subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends, or whether you are actually hitting this button right here just to watch another video, we look forward to seeing you in the next program.